Today at the trial of Jason Lindemann in Winnebago County, jurors heard from the owner and captain of the paddle wheel cruiser hit by a powerboat 2 years ago on the Fox River.
Prosecutors say Lindemann was intoxicated and caused the crash, which hurt more than a dozen people. The 53-year-old faced more than a dozen counts, including second-degree recklessly endangering safety and failing to render aid. If convicted, he could spend several years behind bars. Brittany Schmidt joins us now live from Oshkosh, where the defense called into question the paddleboat itself the night of the crash. Brittany.
Bill and Cammie, the defense brought up what they say is a lighting violation on the paddle boat the night of the crash on July 9th, 2022. It happened shortly before 10 p.m. on the Fox River. The jurors heard from the owner and captain of the paddle boat today. Jeff Lowe's says he was steering the boat and getting ready to go under a bridge. During testimony, he said he could see the powerboat. The prosecution says Lindemann was driving, crisscrossing in front of him before heading straight toward the paddle boat and hitting it. Lowe says after the crash, he passed an alcohol and drug test. He also told authorities the Coast Guard just renewed the boat's certificate of inspection the day before the crash. That inspection is called into question by the defense today, saying there was a violation of Rule 20. Now, we looked up Coast Guard Rule 20, which talks about approved and unapproved commercial vessel navigation lights. The defense argues the rope lights on the paddleboat the night of the crash are a violation, while the prosecution points out the Coast Guard is responsible for making sure all requirements are met.
You're familiar with rule commonly referred to as Rule 20. You're not supposed to have any lights on other than the navigation lights that might impact the distinct characteristics of the boat, correct?
Yes. Don't know the number 20 by heart, but
You're aware of the rule?
yes.
And because you've had no accidents in the past or complaints to you that justify you're violating the law and leaving those lights on?
Guess that would be yes.
You testified that your boat was inspected by the Coast Guard on July 8th.
The day before.
Okay. And did that inspection involve a Coast Guard officer coming and looking at the boat?
There's two of them.
Were those lights on the boat at that time?
Yes.
Were you issued a violation or a citation for those lights by the Coast Guard at that
No.
time? And again, it's the Coast Guard that is responsible for enforcing those rules?
Yes.
There were other boaters on the water the night that the collision happened. Tonight at 6, how one fisherman describes the crash and an interaction between passengers on both of the boats involved in the crash after it happened. Reporting live in Oshkosh, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.